Even the most successful leaders of us eventually bump up against an upper limit. A limit where who you've been and what you've done up to that point are no longer effective at moving you beyond it. Well, today we're blowing the lid off, revealing how to reinvent yourself into an unlimited version of you who can blow past your upper limit to make the impossible possible. Hi, I'm Snakard, and on this channel I help visionary entrepreneurs and transformational leaders like you to expand your impact while loving life every step of the way and without ever having to give up what matters most to you. Today I'm revealing how to reinvent yourself into someone who is not limited by old identities, constructs, or beliefs. When hidden from your awareness, these constructs create an upper limit for even the most successful among us. Limits on who you are, what's possible for you, and even what you can or can't expect from the world around you. This is why even if you think that anything's possible, there may be some things that you don't think are possible for you just yet. Or why despite your best efforts, you're just not there yet. It's also why when you grow into new territories, be it in business or in life, and awesome things are happening that expand your sphere of influence and exceed your wildest expectations, you may unintentionally retract back to a comfort zone where you have a feeling of control and predictability and where there seems to be lots of proof for your identity working for you. But as you've surely heard, to do something you've never done before, you need to become someone you've never been before. And that is ultimately what we're talking about today. How to become the reinvented, unlimited version of you who can overcome your upper limit and make the impossible possible. If you haven't seen it yet, you can click the link on your screen for a prior video titled How Your Identity is Formed. The 10-second recap for context in this discussion is this. You became you, or who you think you are, by figuring out who you needed to be in the world to get praise and love and desired attention. It's rooted in fear, and it's born out of our need to survive. What we haven't talked about yet is that while it started as a literal physical don't kicked out on the street survival mechanism, it's been feeding on itself and has become more about the survival of your identity. When you figured out how to get praise and positive attention by being who you needed to be and doing what you needed to do, it was subconsciously strategic. A strategic solution for success. That's right. Even as a young child, you were strategic. You may remember some turning point moments in your life when you made some decisions about yourself, about who you are or how to show up in the world. I remember in middle school when I burst out laughing one time and someone made fun of me, and I consciously remember thinking, do not let them see your emotion. People will use it against you and throw it in your face. It was part of what fed into my identity of being strong. But even when you have conscious awareness to some of those turning point moments, most of your strategic success solution is subconscious. More often than not, most of us are unaware of when or why you formed it, that it even exists, and certainly unaware of how much it's limiting you. Because even though it has kept you safe, it's binding. A leader must lead. A survivor has to survive. A superachiever can't fail. Except your particular strategy doesn't fit every situation. And here's the real doozy. Your strategic success solution isn't just to help you succeed, it's also to make up for what you think you lack. Essentially to compensate for your fears of how you don't measure up and how you are not enough. This is part of the reason why you likely have one conscious identity, essentially who you think you are, and a conflicting subconscious identity that you may not even realize is there, as it silently interferes or throws you off track. Now, obviously you're a very successful individual. I'm not saying this is all doom and gloom, but this is the dark side of our humanity. And by being able to identify where and how it gets in the way, you can move it out of the way so that you are free to fully make the difference you're here to make, unhindered, untethered, and powerful to fully move forward the way you want. So let me share a little about how this plays out. I'm going to share an example from my life, but my intention here is in the hopes that you'll be able to see something for you, for your life. A huge part of my identity is that I'm strong, unstoppable. Nothing can keep me down. And by God, I won't just survive, I will triumph. No matter what crap is thrown my way, I'm like the phoenix rising up from the ashes, shooting out of the mountaintop with beams of white light coming out of every pore of my body as I triumph. It sounds a little silly and over the top, but really, it's an aspect of thinking that I can make anything happen. I am not a victim, and I am never helpless or hopeless. And yet, even with 20 plus years of doing this work, I uncovered something last summer that knocked me on my butt. I discovered there was a subconscious identity, whispering and sometimes screaming, "You don't matter. What you say, what you do, it doesn't matter, so what's the point?" Consciously, I would never think that. And up until recently, if you had asked me about it, I would have vehemently denied it and meant it, every word of it, saying, "Hell no, that is totally not me. I am not a victim at all. I never am." But subconsciously, that was my perceived lack, part of how I wasn't measuring up and how I'm not enough. And my identity was trying desperately to make up for it, to cover it up by being someone who can triumph in the face of anything. No matter how unexpected or seemingly impossible, I will rise up unscathed and even stronger than before. But again, the problem is, not everything requires me to rise up. And so the question for me, or maybe I should say the question for my identity and the question for you and your identity is, who am I if I'm not that? For me, it was this inner question of how can I succeed and shine and feel that I do matter if I'm not rising up or if I don't have something to rise up over? Take a moment to look for yourself. Who are you if you're not doing your thing? And so when that default strategy that we refer back to doesn't seem to be the right fit for a situation, what do you think we do? Well, if it's left unconscious, still hidden away, we find and even create ways to get that identity back in play. For me, that means creating things to rise above. This is why once I thought I'd resolved my family of origin issues, I married someone who presented opportunity after opportunity for me to triumph over. And even now, I find I can still be thrown back to that if I'm not staying conscious to it. It's my default success strategy. Almost like a reflex, like if a doctor taps you on the knee and your leg automatically kicks out without you consciously thinking of it, it just happens. It's the same thing here with your success strategy and how your identity takes over and runs the show. Remember, as we've talked about before, this is all to save you, right? To save you from yourself because those survival instincts are kicking in. There's a perceived threat, and so your identity is trying to save you from the situation or the threat at hand. Right now, in fact, as I'm recording this video, I've been going through some personal stuff that's been a little bit scary, certainly unsettling. I'm not sure what's going to happen out of this situation, and it feels like there's a lot at stake. So fear has been coming up. And as it has, once again, I've gone into rise above mode. And you do the same thing because we look for the need. And if you seek, you shall find. But reinvention is as simple as recognizing that your strategic success solution was never really a fact of who you needed to be, and most certainly is not a fact of who you are. It came from your interpretations of what seemed to work. What seemed to help you succeed at getting love and praise and having friends and getting good grades and being acknowledged. But the big thing here is, if you made up those ideas at the time of who you are, and you did make them up, you can just as easily make up something new. Now, beware, your identity will very likely put up a fight to survive. It wants to stay intact as is, and it will try to convince you that you need it to stay as is. The process of reinvention can be deep work. And that's exactly why this is a big part of what I help my clients with. Because most of us can't walk this particular path alone. We need objective support to help us see what our identity does not want us to see. Nonetheless, I'm going to share with you the basic steps involved in reinventing yourself into someone who is not limited by old identities or constructs. So here we go. Number 1. The foundation of everything is to remember at a soul level who you really are. That you are and always have been enough exactly as you are, with nothing lacking and nothing to make up for. Check out the video linked on your screen if you could use some support really buying into that. 2, take a look at what's your strategic success solution. It's probably a big part of your identity, or at least of who you think you are. And typically it's our default mode for doing well, for succeeding. 3, take a look at what perceived lack that strategy is making up for. Number 4, be willing to give it all up to become someone you've never been before. Since your identity and even your strategic success solution is not who you really are, you really have nothing to lose. When you have those moments of fear or challenge, you can ask yourself, who is the universe calling me to become? Or who is this situation asking me to be? For me, I often see that it's about being vulnerable, letting go of being strong like armor, and instead having the strength and the courage to take the armor off. 5, declare from nothing who you say you are. And know that this is a process of invention. It's not based on the current possibilities or reality, and it's certainly not based on any limits from the past. You made it up then, and you can make it up now. And I don't mean make it up like a fixed identity like it became in the past, but rather as a possibility in the present to live into now and now and now. Sometimes those old identities and constructs will still pop back up, and oftentimes they leave you feeling like a fraud, particularly during challenging times as a leader when things don't go to plan, or you feel blindsided, or you feel like there's some loss of control. Click the video on your screen or linked in the description below to find out how to turn those challenges into opportunities to become who they're calling you to be. In doing so, you're going to better serve your people, and you're going to move your mission forward like never before. And be sure to click subscribe while you're here to be notified of new videos every week. See you in the next one.